Where once there were 3 survivors, there were now 7. How long would this remain? Would they become friends? Or would they wish the other had simply died? The 0 hour. That moment of peace and quiet, where only the dutiful Lieutenant Aiden sought to work whilst the others slept, was content with his lot to cut down a tree even as it rained. He looked at the storage building and decided perhaps it would be best with a roof, for to better preserve the electronics and expensive medicines they had managed to salvage. It was going to be a long night for Aiden. It seemed as though time sped up as he was engrossed in this monotonous task of cutting down trees immediately before plopping unsanctimoniously to the floor. Coley, diligent young gal, picked up where he had left off. Perhaps these beds were no longer needed as a triage for which they were designed, if one could call a relatively flattened spot on the ground a bed. The raspberry bush looked ripe enough to harvest, but Beard had the task of roofs on his mind. It was fortunate he had anything on his mind at all, actually, to the years of being a joy-wirer. Poor Jane. She'd begun to feel the stress of dealing with real life. She'd never been in a situation like this. She'd always ever been on a ship or in a storage container. Now she was on a planet. What strange thoughts do androids think? What dreams do they dream? Jane had a lot to think about. But potentially, how better to make this place? Jane had made it evident that they would need a supply of wood. So the colonists decided they would not be slack in that task, collecting it. Macey, as something of a professional in this regards, decided it may be better if they were to have some place designed to specifically store wood, a pallet of a sort. And decided this was the sort of thing that simply could not wait to be done. No, don't put the silver coins there, Coley. Put the wood, Macey urged. Even the illustrious doctor decided to help cut down trees. Jane thought, wouldn't it be wonderful if we all had a place to live? Perhaps we could build a house. Perhaps we could build one right there. And maybe it wouldn't be a house so much as a housing development. Maybe we could all have rooms next to each other. And she formed this idea in her mind. An idea which was soon to become a reality. Perhaps there could be a pleasant space here in the middle where there's some furniture. She thought very carefully about how to space this. Perhaps even we'll build a spot for people to join us in the future. To get all of these rocks and slag out of the way. Best make a good spot for that. The idea of sleeping in the marble structure did occur to some of them, as overgrown as it was with trees and a bit dirty. But they set to the task of making this brainchild a reality with such fervor that it might not be an issue. Surely 7 sets of hands put to work would make it a non-issue. Surely, Doctor. Sensing the tensions rising, James decided they should all play a game of horseshoes. And took the initiative to demonstrate how fun it was to throw horseshoes over a bush and onto a horseshoe pin. In the rain. Immediately Macey and soon after Cody joined her. The idea of this blind horseshoes was starting to catch on. As it were, the bush was seeing more of the horseshoes than the pin itself, but that wasn't the fact of the matter. "Oh, look, Coley got one," Jane said, somewhat excitedly, oblivious to the fact that a rat was skulking about, threatening to steal the horseshoes and run off with them. Where exactly these horseshoes had come from in the first place was unimportant, much less the fact that there were so many of them. What was important was the fact that they were all having fun. Even Aiden joined in, sneakily throwing horseshoes between the two walls that he was supposed to be building, narrowly missing Beard as he attempted to join him, and around the tree which he would eventually cut down, although perhaps not just yet. It's part of the game. Sarge decided if there's anything he knows about, it's horseshoes and hand grenades, and immediately went and rung one around the pin. Very nearly another. Beard decided the cat was a more appealing target than a horseshoes pin, but Cassius, the cat, would have none of it. Shouter, the dog, decided he would rather attempt to claim the pole, but as there was a profound amount of metal flying about it, decided against it. Aiden's game of horseshoes finished, the tree with which he now felt kinship had to go. Became evident that this inane and somewhat dangerous game of horseshoes had remarkably lightened the spirits of the fledgling colony. And despite the fact that the horseshoes pin was placed rather inconveniently in the very middle of almost everything they were working on, only made it more fun. As it is, Doctor thought, it's all fun and games until someone gets hurt. Then, it's hilarious. Jane and Macey, shouting over the din of construction and pleas to watch out for people under the attack of flying horseshoes, decided it may be prudent to make something of a kitchen in this direction. And there should be something of a maintenance shaft. It was noted that the soil in this general area was richer somewhat. And so perhaps the kitchen and storage for food could be close by to one another. Maybe that is what they would use this delightful marble structure for. As with any good freezer, there should be 2 doors. they had to expand later, it's something they could indeed do. For the interim, would become remarkably important to secure a source of food and proper meals. Proper sleep would become an issue as well. After all, they'd made these bedrooms. What was a bedroom without a bed? Jane realized, somewhat foolishly, that they'd been making a butcher's table out of steel, when a much, much more nearly plenteous source of wood existed. Into the night she labored, ever diligent android. Obsessed, to no small degree, with being the very best that she could. Deciding that perhaps building beds would have to wait until tomorrow, she decided to test how comfortable their soon-to-be freezer was. After all, there'd be a great deal of food spending a great deal of time here eventually. Best to make sure it had a proper home. Home. What is a home? Jane wondered. Could she make a home? Could she make this place her home? Could it be a home for others too? Would they enjoy it?